Oh, it's done it again with this stupid camera. There we go. I don't know what causes that every time. I'd say I'll fix it, but we screwed it up last time. But anyway, here we are. Another week and another day of lockdown. I think we've hit 40 days now. Some of us have obviously been doing this a little bit longer than others. But happy Freedom Day. It's rather ironic today, I think, of all days, at least freedom of movement is heavily restricted, and so it's a little bit difficult to celebrate one's freedoms as they are quite constricted compared to normal. And I suppose in a weird way, one might look at future freedom days with a little bit more, I suppose, clarity and a little bit more reflection in terms of being able to compare it to perhaps countries where freedom is not as free, looking into North Korea. Anyway, when things are dark and gloomy like they are at the moment, I prefer to turn to the guidance of Mario Kart, which is what I want to discuss today. For those of you who haven't played Mario Kart, it is a karting game, which basically is like go-karts, but it's themed around the kind of Mario universe. So it's got Mario and Luigi and Bowser and the princess and a whole bunch of ancillary characters that we've come to collect over the years. And you essentially race around track, like a racing track in bikes and carts and all sorts of things. And it's got pretty much everything you expect from a karting game. Fireballs and spiny shells and bananas, the kind of things one expects from most sort of racing games. Now, the thing is that probably the most iconic item in that particular game is the blue shell. You know, everyone knows the blue shell. They might not know it as its official name, which is the spiny shell, but it's kind of been sort of synonymous with the game. And the reason is, for those who've never played, had the privilege of ever experiencing either using the blue shell or being hit by the blue shell, is it's a very rare mechanic in gaming. It's almost unique to Mario Kart in that it is an ability that targets whoever's coming first, and exclusively then. A lot of games have sort of balancing mechanics in the way that you might, like if someone's coming last, they might give them more boosts, like a speed boost or something to, get them to catch up. Some ways of essentially evening the playing field so that if someone's coming last, they at least, have a chance. But it's one of the few mechanics I've ever seen in a game where it actively will punish the person coming first. In fact, one reviewer, when kind of reviewing the Mario Kart sort of franchise, was saying the blue shell is the scourge of the skillful and the great white hope for the novice. Because really, no matter what's happening, if you're coming first and you're doing really well, a blue shell could happen at any time. And similarly, if you're doing really badly, same thing. A blue shell can happen pretty much at kind of any time. And it's been quite contentious that, it's something that actively punishes skill. It's seen as something that a lot of people say is actively against some of the kind of key mechanics of building a game. You should reward people who are either skillful or put in the hours to get skillful. You shouldn't be punishing them. But the key to the blue shell philosophy is that it exists. Bad luck exists, and it's often of no fault of our own. You can get retrenched, relationships break down, the entire world can go on lockdown, and it's not because you ate a bat. It's just a blue shell with your name on it. The key is, and I guess this is where the learning comes in, the lesson that Mario Kart gives us is that it's how you react is everything. Obviously there are those who will react saying how unfair the item is, only noobs use it, and they'll even have, I've seen challenge games, because Mario Kart's pretty serious. Don't let anyone tell you it's not. They are full-on leagues. It's almost at an e-sport kind of level. But there are guys who will have entire leagues, and in the gentleman's agreement, when you decide to sign up for any of these leagues, you're not allowed to use the blue shell. And a lot of them, it's seen as kind of, too much RNG, as they call it, like random number generator. It's seen as an unfair advantage. And so a lot of guys will say, if you are skillful, you can't use it. There's this kind of gentleman's agreement. Some will try to outplay it. And that's the irony, is there, I think when I was researching, about 10 ways you can avoid getting hit by the blue shell altogether. So even though you can say it's a way of punishing the skillful, it's actually a way of punishing the moderately skillful. Because if you're truly skillful, you'll know how to overcome the blue shell. And then, of course, there are others that just accept that the blue shell exists, as a way of kind of getting through, it's part of the game. Sometimes you get hit with the blue shell, and, well, sometimes you get to hit other people with the blue shell. Blue shells happen, in that famous saying, shit happens. In the same way, blue shells happen. The key as well to the shit happens saying is that that's the entire saying. It's just shit happens. Doesn't say bad shit happens. It doesn't say only shit happens. It doesn't say shit happens all the time or shit happens to me. It's just shit happens. And so just as often as the bad shit happens, like you get hit with the blue shell, the good shit happens too. And I think that, as often as we think of all the bad stuff that's happening to us exclusively, it feels like sometimes, there's good stuff happening to other people, to us. It's happening just as often, if not more often. When we get a negative lens on things, we kind of only see the blue shells kind of being targeted at us. And so I suppose in these terribly troubling times of COVID and, just this plethora of bad things happening all the time, one needs to be reminded that sometimes you are coming last in the race and you have no hope of winning. And then suddenly a blue shell happens and you stand a chance. And I think that, if anything, is the message for this week. So as we're going through these tough times, just remember that a blue shell might pop up out of nowhere and suddenly you can go from last to first. Yeah, and that is this week's message. I forgot to ask before I go, how are you guys doing in terms of lockdown? Can I have some scores in the chat? On the last time we were hovering around, it's pretty bad last week, 4.5. I think everyone was worried about lockdown being extended. I'm hoping that the scores are a bit better now with us knowing that we're going to hopefully level 4, whatever the hell that means. But yeah, hope you've been enjoying these. I really enjoyed just having a chance to finally be able to chat through some of the ideas that have been cooking in this book for quite a while. And so if you've been enjoying them, please do let me know. Obviously, you can drop a comment in the video on the chat. Otherwise, do drop me a line. Most of you have my WhatsApp number. Otherwise, on social, on Twitter. And just let me know your thoughts. Obviously, I love the feedback. And hopefully see you all next week. Until then, cheerio.